Hi everybody, so my name is Brooke Redmann, and Lizette and I will be talking about backwards design, understanding by design. So let me go ahead and get started. So what is backwards design? Backwards design learning is used by teachers to create content that focuses on an end goal rather than just learning itself. Backwards design is considered to be a much more intentional approach to learning than traditional ways. And this model is primarily focused on being intentional rather than just doing activities to fulfill state requirements. So as you can see, I did put a little picture up here, and it shows the steps. So it's really important to follow these in order when you're using the backwards design method. So who developed it and why? So two men really focused a lot of their time into this design, which was J. McTeague, sorry if I pronounce it wrong, and Grant Wiggins. They're both very influential researchers when it comes to the understanding by design. They've created a book that explains what the learning design is and the best way to incorporate it into the classroom. And here you can see a picture of both of those gentlemen there. So where can this method be used? You can use the strategy mostly in classrooms. It's seen a lot, but when they're creating curriculum, but you can also use the strategy in workplaces as well, since the design starts with a goal in mind, and then companies can use it to create helpful strategies to achieve work-related goals. So some key points about it, so I'm just going to go into a little bit of depth about each stage. So stage one is where the teacher needs to determine what the goals of the activity are. The teacher should be asking themselves questions. And they highlighted 3 different questions that they should really keep in mind. What students learn, hear, or read? So what kind of materials are they learning? What are they listening to? What are they physically reading? What knowledge or skills should be mastered by the end of this lesson. So if you're talking about cross multiplying, you would want to know at the end of your lesson that they know how to cross multiply. And what important information should the students retain? So if you're doing something in math, maybe the steps, you want them to remember the important steps like PEMDAS or something like that. Stage 2 of this design, this stage focuses on how teachers will assess their students, and the information they learned. Teachers should use different methods of assessment, such as papers, quizzes, free response questions, homework, and etc. So you want to give your students multiple means to show you that what you're doing in the classroom is working. So since not everybody is a great multiple choice taker, you don't want to just always do multiple choice. Or some people are better at writing, but you don't always just do writing. So you want to make sure that you have a lot of different assessments in place while doing this. And the third and final stage of this is that when teachers decide how they will teach, they will determine what activities they want to implement for the student learning. They should try to provide resources and information that will obtain the goal, which is step 1. So you don't want to pick an activity and then base a lesson off of that. You should create what you want to do and then find a lesson that goes with that goal. So that's it from my part. I'm going to go ahead and leave it up to Lizette to finish off everything you need to know about this design. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lizette Rodriguez, and I will be taking over for the second portion of the presentation. Brooke went ahead and did the first portion of the presentation, so I'll be taking over. So here we go. Since Brooke talked a little bit about each of the different stages that there are for backward design, I wanted to go ahead and present a YouTube clip that I found that has a scenario on how to use the backwards design, and so you guys can see how it is in play. Here we go.
Hi, thanks for tuning in to learn a bit about the backward design process over the next 5 minutes or so. The ideas come from Wiggins and McTeague in their book, Understanding by Design. Since backward design is essentially a course planning process, let's start with a scenario. Say I'm planning to teach a course in filmmaking to a group of undergraduates. We'll call it Filmmaking 101. I've talked to some colleagues who've inspired me with suggestions for some great activities like script writing, storyboarding. Hey, maybe I can even get them to produce a short film. But hang on. This is beginning to sound like a long to-do list. I need to set the stage for learning, not just doing.
Okay, so that was the scenario portion of the video, and pretty much they're trying to come up with a lesson plan, but they're looking at the approach towards the backwards design. So we're gonna keep going, and we're gonna see more clips of this film. And yeah, here's the next one. All right, so stage one, just like Brooke was talking about, stage one is about finding the desired result, thinking of the big ideas and skills. Questions you should ask is what the student should know, understand, and be able to do. We need to consider the goals, curriculums, and expectations. And the main purpose of this design is to focus on the big ideas, the principles, the theories, the concepts, point of views, or themes. So let's jump back into the scenario.
Let's see how this works in practice. Back to our course example. I'm hoping that by the end of my course, learners will understand something about the role and meaning of storytelling and be able to apply that understanding to the development of their own projects.
So for the first stage, it's coming up with the big idea, the result that you want at the end of the lesson. So it's pretty much like coming up with the objective, the goal for your lesson plan. Here's the next one. Stage two. So this one is to determine the acceptable levels of evidence that support the desired result. So it's a culminating assessment. It is what is the teacher expecting for the students to understand. And it is to consider having the assessment task and range of assessment methods be observations, tests, projects. So to get a better idea of this, we're gonna go ahead and go into the next clip.
Likely an exam won't give me or my learners the kind of evidence of understanding we're looking for. But the development of filmmaking projects will, and that'll encourage them to draw on their own inspirations or questions.
So for this one, she was determining that quizzes was not gonna work for her. And so she came up with another idea, which was to do the filmmaking. So here's the next one. Stage three. So this one is to design the activities. This one's to actually get into the lesson and create the activities that you think are gonna be helpful for your students to achieve the end result, your desired result. So what you should ask is what knowledge and skills do students need to achieve the desired result? So you need to think about that. You need to consider the teaching methods, the sequence of lessons, and any resources that you might need for the lesson. So let's go ahead and jump into the scenario one more time.
And like with all learning, they'll need many opportunities to practice and get feedback on the component parts of a larger project. So we'll build that in, which will include technical aspects and learning how to work together, which are important aspects of the discipline of filmmaking. I also want to make space for thinking and discussing about the essential question, what's the role of storytelling? To get a broader perspective on this, I want students to connect with a broad range of people with different backgrounds and experiences, people outside of class. So I'll build that into my plan.
So in this scenario portion, she's talking about how she wants to go about in taking the activity. She wants to do social media. She wants them to collaborate. She wants them to really get the idea of the filmmaking into the lesson and to help get their desired end result. So we're going to continue. So here are the strengths and weaknesses of using the backward design. So the strengths are, it focuses on the big idea. It has the students as the main focus, as it always should be. But this one, it mostly pinpoints on having the students focusing on what the students need for the end of the instruction. So it ensures the content is focused and organized. Weaknesses. It can be time consuming for the teacher because they have to think about it in terms of backwards, make sure that they're planning out that each student is meeting the end result. It doesn't allow for flexibility of the standards. It's really focused on each of them. So it doesn't allow you to really change them up a bit so that they work for you. And scaffolding is done through the projects instead of the lessons themselves. So instead of having the lessons build on scaffolding, you're focusing on the projects to do the scaffolding for you. Next one. Would our theorists have used this? My theorist was Jean Piaget. His theory focused on looking at how children develop intellectually throughout their childhood. And I would say that in a way he would use this design just because he mentions his theory has a desired result for each stage that it goes through. So I think that in a way he would use it. Brooke's theorist was Jerome Bruner. His theory focused on that learning needs to be an active process where students construct new ideas and concepts from their past experiences. So I think he would use the backwards design from what I have understood, because if he would focus on creating that active learning in the process of using the theory. The next one. This is from my own experience, so I wouldn't know what Brooke would say in this portion, but if I could utilize backward design in my instruction, yes, I think I would, because in a way I am creating my lesson plans in a way where I start with achieving, we're having the students achieve what I want my students to achieve at the end of the lesson, and then go into figuring out the activities and the assessments. I think I would use the backward design in the future to help with my lessons, just to make sure that I am meeting the standards and that I am meeting the needs of my students, because the backwards design does focus on what the students need in order to achieve their desired result. So I think that would be something that I would focus on a lot. And it would be, this design would definitely be something that I would want to try out in the classroom in the future. And then the last slide is just the credits, and that's pretty much it. Thank you so much.